Well, welcome back. For the last 3 days, I've been competing in the 2022 chess.com Daily Chess Championship. And here on the board is, or on the screen is the group 2,344, which is my group of 12. There are 33,000 people competing in this tournament. If you're not familiar with daily tournaments, you tend to play simultaneous games against all the opponents in your group. Those 33,000 people are all divided into many groups of 12. So I have 11 opponents playing 2 games apiece against each of them, which is 22 simultaneous games. Obviously, the upside is you have 24 hours to make each move. So you don't have to be at the screen or on your device hour after hour after hour. You can look at the game, make a move, check the next game, make a move, and then go on about your day. All these red circles, if you're not familiar with these daily tournaments, these are people who have timed out. They didn't make a move. So those are the easiest games to win, but you don't get any rating points for that, obviously. Like here, I won on time because I made a move and the other person didn't come back within 24 hours. So either they forgot they were registered for the tournament, or they created an account long enough to register for the tournament but then deleted their account, or something else. Perhaps they had an emergency come up in their lives. I really don't know. But I have managed to win a few games, and this is one of them that I'm going to show you. I didn't play it perfectly, but I think I played well, which is a goal. I tried the London system, or at least, I guess I did play the London system. Until that. Here, I noticed immediately the weakening of this diagonal in front of the king. Is an unusual move. Not sure why the opponent played it. But they were rated significantly lower than me, which is something that happens in an open daily tournaments. You're going to play people that sometimes are rated 300 or 400 points ahead of you, or people that rated, in this case, 600, almost 600 points lower than me. And one thing that I try to do, especially when playing lower rated opponents, is to recognize their mistakes or inaccuracies immediately and try to punish them. So here I decided to try to open up this diagonal for my attacking piece because of this opening. Fortunately, that's a normal London move, which helps my purpose. And they backed up that f-pawn. Here, I was just trying to prevent this. I really don't like this bishop coming down here, and then you block with your knight or the pawn. And anyway, that gets frustrating, so I just decided to put a stop to it with that. This, I think, was even worse, because now not only is this diagonal, good grief, that this diagonal is open, but now this pawn's not even guarding that square. So I'm prepared to fully open my approach path here by this move, which the computer didn't like. It says, obviously, I should have moved this c-pawn. If you let the engine run a little longer, it was suggesting other things like this pin, or even a knight move here. But I'm accustomed to lower rated players trading immediately. They don't want to put the knight back. They don't want to put their knight back here, or put it back where it came from, or trap it on the edge of the board, or put it in danger here. So they just trade, which is what I figured would happen, and it got me a nice, I guess, outpost square here, from which I can kind of watch these. Plus, if the pawns ever get out of the way, I'm controlling, some pretty long diagonals. But anyway, my opponent reacted poorly there, allowing this. Obviously, if they had put their knight here, that would have prevented this move. I don't know. I wouldn't have traded probably. I probably would have gone about my business if they had put their knight here. I probably would have just developed the bishop and then castled. But this is what happened. I was trying to get their king to move. I found, especially against lower rated players, if you prevent them from castling, get their king out of sorts, then I get an advantage. And one other thing I have found, even when I was lower rated, a queen trade helps a lot. Many players, even up into the 1100s, 1200s, don't play well without their queen. So here I accomplished 2 purposes at once: force the king to move so they can't castle, and got rid of the queens. At the same time, my bishop found a free pawn here. So, and at any time that I want, I can come back to my outpost square. So I felt like I was at a good advantage, only one move away from, well, no moves away from castling this way, and one move away from castling on the king side. Here I saw an opportunity to come inside with my knight. Probably wasn't the best idea, but based on the placement of their king, I thought I could get in a check, figured the bishop would take, and I would trade a knight for a bishop, and then be able to put my bishop back on its outpost square, was my plan. The opponent went along with my plan for just a moment, and I got my check, but instead of the trade, they just moved their king closer. Probably the idea was to trap one or both of these pieces, which is probably why the computer didn't want me to go in there. I decided to trade the knight for the other bishop, since I didn't get the dark squared bishop I had intended. And that worked, but then I got another free pawn. Obviously, giving up a free pawn of my own. I don't know how the computer's suggested move would have prevented that, but either way, this way I got a pawn, the other way I would not have. Obviously, the opponent took that pawn, and this is a little bit scary for me now, with this rook down here on the 7th rank. So my idea here was to trap it down here, at least a little bit. So I figured if I could go check, maybe I could trade off these bishops, or if nothing else, getting too many arrows. If I go here, it's protected by this pawn, king has to go somewhere, then I can put another pawn there, and my bishop blocks this rook. So the computer didn't like that idea. It wanted to get the pawn out of the danger immediately, and so I'm able to complete my plan. This is looking bad here. Probably should have done this, which is what the computer suggested, but instead I saw another free pawn. Now I'm 2 pawns up, and my opponent blunders. Okay. Their knight is safe here. This is why it's a blunder, because their knight is completely safe in this spot, unless I do this, but I'm not going to do that because they're going to capture here with the rook and start wiping out all these other pawns. But by taking with the knight, they allow castling. Some people think you can't castle with the rook in danger, but you can, as long as the king is not in check, and as long as these spaces are not attacked by enemy pieces, you can castle. So I did. Oh, the computer thought that was a great move, so yay for me. Now, the knight's in danger, because I have 2 pieces on this square. My opponent blunders one more time, just for fun. I guess they saw that this pawn is now unprotected. They have removed its guard, so they went after it, but forgot that bishops go backward. So at this point now, I'm a full rook ahead. Still have this thing going on here, which the opponent decided to, let's just start clearing off pieces, which I think is actually better for me, just because I have more pieces. So for every trade is going to help me. As you can see, I'm trying to take control of this open file, trying to get rooks down here or possibly push a pawn. I decided to push the pawn. That wasn't the best move, but my idea is, hey, this pawn is guarded. I'm just going to go ahead and trade that pawn off for this rook, if that's what they let me do. The opponent saw this move, which was pretty smart given the circumstances, but it really doesn't accomplish much, except that they're now able to block the pawn if they want to. Yeah, it says that they should have definitely blocked the pawn. But I'm not going to promote right now because I don't feel like trading a pawn and a rook for a knight. But I have this awesome move, at which point my opponent resigned. Because these rooks are lined up across here. It's not quite pigs on the 7th, as the saying goes. But if they go ahead and do this, which they should have done earlier, now I have that. A protected check, wiping out a pawn. And all kinds of mayhem's going to assume at this go on. So also I have this bishop ready to come into the action, or down here, as the case may be. and I can just keep going at this point. So they resigned, got one of several wins of this first round. Thank you for watching. Very excited to see how the rest of this turns out. I will try to throw in another game or two here if something else interesting shows up.